Hey there, welcome back. So if you've been following me the last few weeks, you know we've been talking about the Big Five, and those are those universal characteristics that researchers use to evaluate personalities. And I stumbled across a 2013 study that I found really fascinating. It was done by a team of researchers led by psychologist and American expat Jason Rentfrow of the University of Cambridge in the UK. And what they wanted to do is take this concept of the Big Five and these five basic personality traits and apply them to the United States to see if they could map the American mood literally with state-by-state ratings of personality and temperament. They surveyed 1.6 million people from every state except for Alaska and Hawaii, and they just didn't get enough responses from those two states, so they excluded them. But folks filled out questionnaires that ranked them on these Big Five personality domains. An extrovert, for example, would answer questions indicating a love for socializing, and a neurotic person's responses would be indicative of high anxiety or stress. You get the idea. But they took this data from hundreds of thousands of participants across the country, and then they calculated a value for each personality trait for each state. And the results might actually surprise you. According to the study, Wisconsin was the most extroverted state, while Vermont was the least. Utah is the most agreeable place in the country, and Washington, D.C. is the least agreeable place in the country. Shocking, right? South Carolina is the most conscientious state, while Maine comes in last there, and West Virginia is the country's most neurotic state. The least neurotic state is Utah. DC takes the prize for the most open state, and North Dakotans take the prize for the least open. Apparently, they like everything to stay the way it is. Very predictable and familiar there. But what they did with that information next was really fascinating, because they looked for patterns in which those traits appeared together, and then they were able to divide the United States map up into three distinct personality regions. So here they are. The first one, the South and the Midwest, the researchers found, are very high in extroversion, agreeableness, and conscientiousness. And this combination of traits led the psychologist to name these states of the country, this cluster of states, friendly and conventional. The second cluster of states describes our free spirits, and people who live in coastal areas on the West Coast and the East Coast tend to be very low in extroversion and agreeableness, but really high in openness. So that whole relax, try anything vibe is definitely, kind of a characteristic of our free spirit states. And the third cluster are the New England and Mid-Atlantic region. They're rated slightly low in extroversion and agreeableness and conscientiousness, but very high in neuroticism and above average in openness. And the researchers named this region temperamental and uninhibited, noting that the people in this area are on average irritable, impulsive, and quarrelsome. And there are many geographical explanations for why the regions break down the way they do, but researchers feel like migration is the key here. And if you think about the pioneers who settled the West, they had kind of this wanderlust, adventuresome spirit. These were the kinds of traits that were passed down through the generations, so say the researchers. And they confirmed this theory by comparing the date that each state became part of the Union with their relaxed and creative profile score. And the result was the later that a state joined the Union, the higher that relaxed and creative profile turned out to be. Perhaps regions of our country really do have a certain DNA that has been passed down over generations, and where we live might just have a lot to do with who we are. If you find this kind of research fascinating, then you might enjoy my book, Happy Hour with Einstein. It's 1 part neuroscience, 1 part gratitude journal, and a splash of inspiration.